you know how to find the target price or the fundamental price of the stock. Okay, and then the methodology that we learned last time is called DCF model. Okay, and that model use the free cash flow. Okay, and after you get the free cash flow in the future, then you discount it back to today. Okay, you will find the enterprise value. After you get the enterprise value, you deduct the value of debt, and then you will get the value of equity. And when you do the forecast of the free cash flow, you are going to forecast it until infinity, right? And therefore, sometimes we need to assume what is going to be our terminal value. Okay, terminal value can be found from assuming that the free cash flow is constant, or assuming that the free cash flow is going to grow at a constant rate, or sometimes you may assume that the free cash flow or the value of the terminal value, the value of the terminal value is going to be some price multiple of the free cash flow that you forecasted in the final period. Okay, and when you discount the DCF model, you discount it with the weighted average cost of capital. Okay, and when you discount with the weighted average cost of capital, you need to discount it using the cost of debt and cost of equity. Okay, and then you need to find the capital structures, the weight of debt and the weight of equity. Okay, of the firm you are analyzing. And actually, then we also talk about what is going to be the appropriate assumption of the growth rate. Okay, the growth rate can be maybe the inflation rate, GDP long-term rate, or maybe production, population growth, or maybe some relation with the ROE. Okay, but apart from finding the stock valuation based on the DCF model, we also have the other model, which is called the Gordon model, or sometimes we call it dividend model. Okay, because in this model we do the valuation in the other ways. Okay, instead of finding the total value of the firm, okay, we find the value of equity right away. Okay, we find the value of equity right away. And when we are going to find the value of the equity right away, then we need to think what is going to be the return that the shareholder get. Okay, what is the return that the shareholder get? And if you look at the return of the shareholder can receive two types of return, right? The first one is going to be capital gain. The second one is going to be dividend, right? Therefore, the return that investor get can be from capital gain, the difference in price with respect to the price you bought, and the dividend yields or the dividend that you receive in the future with respect to the price you bought. Okay, and don't forget that we have the subscript T here, okay, T and T plus 1. Okay, and then therefore we assume that every time when we buy a stock, we will need to forecast what is going to be the stock price in the future and what is going to be the dividend you are going to receive in the future. Okay, so in investor head, they have to imagine what is going to be the price in the future and what is going to be the dividend in the future. Okay, before they buy the stock. And therefore, if you rearrange this equation, you will see that it can be rearranged in such a way. Okay, so you can have PT multiplied by R T plus 1 equal to PT plus 1 minus TT and then plus TT plus 1. Okay. I don't know what happened to the program. But anyway, then, let me turn it off and start it over. Okay, So you can rearrange the term, then you get pt multiplied by rt plus 1 equal to pt plus 1 minus pt and then plus dp plus 1, right? Okay, because based on the return you get two kinds of return, capital gain and dividend yield. Okay, after you rearrange the term, you rearrange the term and then what you get is that you will get pt equal to 1 plus rt plus 1 equal to pt plus 1 plus dt plus 1. And then you get pt equal to p3 plus 1 plus d3 plus 1. And then divide by 1 plus rt plus 1. Okay? So in other words, we can say that the price you buy today is going to be the discounted of what you would get in the future. And this is what you get in the future. If you buy the stock in the future, you would get the price pt plus 1 and you also get dividend, okay, in the future. Therefore, you have to discount the price and the dividend you receive in the future with the return that you want. Then you get pt, the price that you are happy to buy today. Okay? Now, if we look at this equation, we can also do some further forecast, because at the end you also need to forecast the price in the future, right? Okay, and the price in the future can be also be written as the fact that you have to forecast the price in the next two periods plus dividend in the next two periods and then divide by 1 plus rt, maybe t plus 2, something like that. Okay, so it means that we have to further forecast over time. Okay, in order to know what is going to be the price in the next period, then you are going to forecast what is going to be the price in the next two periods and dividend in the next two periods. Okay. Therefore, if you assume it this way, you will also need to forecast what is going to be the price pt plus 2, right? Which price pt plus 2 will also be a function of the price in tp plus t and dividend in t plus t as well, which you will discount it. Okay, something like that. So it will go on and on forever, right? Until you get p infinity, something like that. Okay, now, so let's try to write the equation, okay, and get what is going to be the price today. So let's say that if this is the price today will depend on dividend 1, discount it, right? Plus P1, that is going to be discount as well, right? But anyway, we also know that P1 is also depend on D2 and P2, and this is going to be discounted by R as well, right? And we also know that P2 will also depend on D3 plus P3 divided by 1 plus R, right? And we also know P3 is P4 plus D4 divided by 1 plus R, okay? So it keeps go on and on forever. But anyway, if you do this, you get this is going to be the first term. This is the first term. This is the second term. This is the third term. And this is the fourth term. And this is the fifth term. Okay? So sometimes if you rearrange the term, then you get P0 is equal to D1 equal to 1 plus R plus D2 divided by 1 plus R square plus D3 divided by 1 plus R polynomial 3 and then plus D4 divided by 1 plus R 4 and then plus P4 divided by 1 plus R, something like that, right? Okay, so it just keep on and on forever. Okay, but in a way you will have to do this until infinity. Therefore what you are going to have is that you will have the infinity divided by 1 plus infinity, and then you also have p infinity divided by 1 plus infinity. Okay, so this is what you are going to have in terms of, and then that is why this is called dividend model. Okay, because it means that price today of the stock depend on the dividend you expect to receive from that stock until infinity. Okay, but anyway, because if we look at this term, we will see that this term is the p infinity divided by 1 plus r with the exponential term of infinity. Therefore, the denominator will be very, very large, right? And then therefore, this term can be assumed to be 0. And once this term is assumed to be 0, then you have just only this term. After you get this term, then it's just the same thing as what you do with the free cash flow, right? In the DCF model, you find the price of the stock based on the free cash flow. And if you do the free cash flow, the price here will not be the stock price, but it will be company value, right? Enterprise value. But in this case, we use dividend. Then this one will be stock price. Okay, not company value. This one will be stock price. But when you discount the dividend is something that equity holder will only receive, right? Therefore, when you discount it, will only be cost of equity. Okay, will only be cost of equity. Is not WACC, because dividend is something that investor only receive. Therefore, when you discount it, you have to discount with the cost of equity. Okay, in this case is the cost of equity. It's not the cost of capital. Okay, are you okay? Okay, are you okay? Do you have any question? Yes?
Practically, in the daily life or like daily trading of the stock market, like investors use this calculation day by day, or like what time do we usually use this kind of calculation? For example, like maybe to buy the stock of the company, we calculate one by one, but the stock price changing like time by time.
We have to do it every time when we decide to buy stock. So actually, every time when stock price move, the price that stock price move will be based on this calculation all the time, every second. Okay? When you, let's say that if you decide to buy some stock, you buy it. But before you buy it, in your head, you need to imagine about this. Otherwise, you are not going to buy the price at 10, right? For example, if you buy the stock price at 10, in your head, you may think, what is going to be the price we receive in the future? What is going to be the dividend we are going to receive in the future? Otherwise, you are not going to buy the price at 10. Okay, if you buy the price at 10 without thinking that you would be able to sell in the future, then you are stupid, right? Then you are doing something that you waste your money. You don't know what is going to be the price in the future. Therefore, every time when investors buy the stock, they will always do this calculation all the time. It is in their head. Okay? Even though they don't have this equation, but they should at least have this equation in their mind. Because this equation is the basic one. Before you buy, you decide to buy at 10 because you think maybe tomorrow you can sell at 11. Right, therefore you imagine what is the price of tomorrow. Otherwise you will not buy today. Okay? So everyone will use this calculation all the time. Okay, but it depends whether they are going to use the DCF model or they are going to use the dividend model. Okay? And dividend model is to assume that you will receive dividend forever, Therefore, you discount it with the cost of equity. But anyway, that is the drawback of this model. The drawback is that this model will only be used for a stock that pay dividend. If the stock don't pay dividend, then you cannot use this equation. Okay? Therefore, dividend model will only be applied for stock that have a stable operation, that have the dividend payment on a regular basis. Okay, if the stock pay dividend and if there is some maybe stable period, then you use this model. But if the stock is in the growth period, they have to keep profit with them. They are not going to pay dividend. Therefore, in that kind of stock, you cannot use this model. You will have to use the DCF model. Okay? Or sometimes some stocks that don't have any net income. Okay? Sometimes that you have net income equal to negative. That kind of stock we also cannot be used with this model. Okay? But anyway, this model remind investor about one main point. The main point is that before you buy stock, you need to think about dividend. You buy stock because you think you are going to receive dividend, because the dividend is the only thing you can receive from holding the stock. Okay? Therefore, when you buy stock, please care about dividend. Don't care much about capital gain. Okay? If you buy stock because you care about capital gain, I believe you will be not successful. Okay? Because sometimes you may come up with some imaginative price that may not be happen at all. But if you focus your brain into dividend, then you will try to figure out whether the firm can pay dividend or not, or whether the firm can increase the level of dividend. Okay? If a firm can increase the level of dividend over time, stock price will always increase. You should not need to care much about stock price. Okay? Before you buy stock, you need to think whether that firm can increase the dividend payment or not. If the firm can increase the dividend payment over time, then just buy it. You should not need to be worried. Okay? Stock price will gain sometime. Don't care. Okay? You do not need to care about stock price. And actually, when you buy stock, please don't care about stock price. You need to care more about the fundamental, about the dividend. Okay? Okay, so this is the dividend model, and if you don't know what is going to be the terminal value or how long are we going to forecast dividend, so it's just the same thing that we use with the free cash flow. Okay, so at the end, sometimes we may assume constant dividend. If we assume constant dividend, then we have dividend divided by R. If we assume maybe dividend growth, then we have the dividend in the next period divided by R minus G. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's the same as the free cash flow. Okay, but you just have to bear in mind that don't forget that the dividend in the R minus G is the dividend that you are expect to receive in the first period of growth. Okay, and the first period of growth is mean that dividend 1 is the dividend 0 multiplied by 1 plus G, right? Don't forget that. Sometimes you have the term 1 plus G on the numerator. Okay, that's all. That's all about dividend model. But anyway, in your stock valuation, you just have to make your own decision whether to use dividend model or whether to use DCF model. Okay, or sometimes you may just come up with 2 models. But anyway, at the end of the day, you just need to make some argument whether you are going to use which kind of method, okay, to provide the reader as the target price for your stock. Okay. So the other part of the lecture is just something that maybe I just would like to recap on something. Okay. For example, if you look at the free cash flow profile of these 3 firms, okay, Which one do you think that would have the highest P ratio? Which firm? A, B, C. Which one may have the highest PE ratio? If you look at the forecast of the free cash flow, I think this question is quite easy. Which one? A, right? A is going to have the high PE ratio because A has a really high growth, but today it has a really low earning. Therefore, A, when investor buy stock price A, they will buy it at very high price compared to what they receive now. Okay? Therefore, you just need to know that stock price depends on the growth potential of the firm, and therefore when you see the stock price have already included the growth potential. And I already said in lecture 1 that most of the time if you think that you hear good news and then you would like to buy stock based on that good news, it doesn't mean that you will get profit, okay, because that good news has already been included in the stock price. Okay, you will only get profit if you think that the fundamental is better than that good news. Okay, now the next one is that we also used to talk about ROE, right? Okay, and if you look in lecture in slide 9, you will see that ROE is related to the growth rate, right? If ROE is high, growth rate tend to be high, right? And growth rate is one of the main factors that investors use when they make valuation, right? Okay? If stock has a high growth rate, then there will be a high price, okay, or maybe in a high multiple range, okay? Therefore, in this case, if you plot the graph between for many stocks, okay, that have different ROE, you will see that stock that has a higher ROE tend to be the stock that trade at a high multiple, right? You have the multiple of 0.8 now, but in this stock they have the multiple 1.3, 1.2, right? PBV ratio, I used to talk in lecture 2. If you don't know what it is, then you just have to go back and refer what is the PBV ratio. Okay, but anyway, in this case, I use PBV ratio to represent the expensiveness of the stock. Okay, so when ROE is higher, the growth potential tends to be higher. Therefore, investor put the growth potential in the stock price. Therefore, investor trade the stock at a high price. And when we say high price, it means it trade at a high multiples. Okay, we don't care about the price in dollar term. When we say whether expensive or cheap. Okay. Now the next one is that another point I would like you to know is that if you look here, Tisco is the bank that has the ROE around this point. KBank is the bank that has the ROE around this point. Therefore, KBank has a ROE that is lower than Tisco, right? But KBank is traded at a higher multiple compared to Tisco. Why? Because we also used to learn this equation, right? DuPont analysis. We also used to know that ROE is a function of ROA and equity multiplier, right? Therefore, if you look at Tisco and KBank, Tisco high ROE comes from the fact that Tisco has a very high equity multiple, okay? Therefore, it means that Tisco is riskier than KBank. And even though KBank has a lower ROE, but KBank has much higher ROA. Therefore, investor put more quality in ROA. That is why investor trade KBank as a higher price compared to Tisco. Okay, this is the fact. I would like you to know that. When there is a high ROE represents high growth potential. High growth potential means the stock will be traded at a very expensive price. Expensive price means we have to look at the price multiple. But anyway, if there is a high ROE because of equity multiple, investors know. Investors are not stupid. Okay, investors know that hey, this is high because debt. Therefore, we are not going to trade it at high multiple. Okay, we prefer KBank to Tisco because KBank ROE largely come from ROA. Okay, but in here, SCB is the best because SCB has the highest ROE and also SCB has the high ROA as well. Therefore, SCB traded as the highest multiple. Okay, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then you have a problem. Okay, and the problem that you have is that you don't go back to review the lecture. Okay, so that is something that I don't want to say many times. Okay, now that would be all for this lecture. Okay, I mean for lecture 7, which is about the equity valuation, and I think all of you can maybe find the stock price. Okay, find the stock price. But anyway, today I also asked you to maybe to show the stock price that you calculate, right? Right? Last week I say that this week you have to show what is the stock price. Okay? That may not be your final stock price, but it may be something that I want you to show. Maybe that I can make some comment on it. Okay? I can also make comment whether you do it right or you do it wrong, and therefore you can go back and then change, adapt, adjust it until before you submit the report. Okay, so that when I ask you to do presentation, it's something that I want to help you. Okay, so that you can go back and improve your work. Okay, so that you will get a higher and better score. Okay, now we finish this lecture, but before we close this lecture, is there any question? Do you have any questions so far on this one? Because now we are going to go back to lecture 4. Okay, now we are going to go back to lecture 4. Okay, and actually I think when we learn lecture 4, I think it will not be too much difficult, because most of the content in lecture 4 is something that we already learned somewhere. When we talk about return, when we talk about maybe cost of equity, cost of debt and so on. Okay, we also use some knowledge from lecture 4. Okay, so I think lecture 4 is something that you can understand quicker, okay, than the other lecture. Okay. The first one that we are going to talk about is the expected return. Okay. We talk about expected return many times. We say that when investor invests in the stock, when bondholder is going to buy bond, they expect to earn some return. They expect to earn some return. And therefore, this is just some picture about the stock price. Okay, let's say that there is some point, okay, that investor buy this stock at around maybe 160 baht. Okay, 160 baht. When they buy it, do they expect to get a negative return or not? No, right? When they buy it, they also expect to get positive return. Therefore, one main property of the expected return is the fact that expected return will always be positive. No one buy a security with an expectation that you will lose, okay? Everyone, when they buy a security, they think stock price is going to increase further. Otherwise, they are not buying. But the fact that they lost is the fact that their forecast is wrong. Okay, their forecast about the future stock price is wrong, and then therefore, instead of increasing stock price, go down. Therefore, you need to make sure that expected price or expected return of the stock will always be positive. Okay, will always be positive. In every point of the day. Okay, now the next one is that why do stock price drop? Why on this day investor are willing to buy at 160, but by this day investor are willing to buy at 150? Why? Why?
Bad news.
What?
Bad
Yeah,
news.
bad news. Okay, because there might be some new information coming into the market, and that information is some information that the investor on this day may not know. Okay, may not know about that information. Therefore, there might be some new information, and that new information lead to a new valuation. Okay, stock price drop. But when stock price drop, because of the new information, we may assume that the expected return will be constant. It will be constant in every day. Expected return will be constant every day. Let's say if you think that this stock investor expect to earn 10%, when they buy at 160, they also expect to earn 10%. When they buy at 150 or 55, they also expect to earn 10%. When they buy at 150, they also expect to earn 10%. When they buy at 145, they also expect to earn 10%. At each point in time, they expect to earn the same rate of return. They expect to earn the same rate of return every day. Because it's the same stock, it's the same business, it's the same risk. Okay? But stock price change because there may be some news that change the forecast of free cash flow. Okay? Because if you look at the stock price, you know that the stock price depends on free cash flow and discount it with the, let's say, WACC, right? And if I say that the expected return is constant, therefore WACC constant, right? WACC constant, but stock price can change every day. Stock price change every day based on the forecast of free cash flow. Investors change their forecast of free cash flow every day. Depend on new information. Depend on the prospect of the cash flow in the future. Okay? So you need to understand this point that expected return in theory should be the same all the time, and that same amount should be positive all the time. Okay? But stock price can change every day because investors change expectation about free cash flow every day. And they change expectation because they have new information every day. Okay? Okay? This is the fact that we assume expected return is constant. And the expected return should be constant because that is the same stock that operates the same business. Okay? So risk is the same. When risk is the same, expected return should be the same. Okay? But when we say that the expected return should be the same, when risk is the same, that also need to assume another factor. And that factor is something that you also need to assume that everyone or every investor should have the mindset in the same way as Buddha. Okay? If you assume that everyone have the same perception toward risk, it means that everyone need to feel the same, no matter what the situation will be. Okay? Or sometimes your mind needs to be strong enough. Okay? Just like Buddha, that they don't care about the wealth, they don't care about the staff. Okay? They just happy. They just do something. Okay? They have some focus on something, right? Meditation or something. Okay? So nothing can interfere his mind. Okay? So that is some assumption that we have in the academic. Okay? In the academic, when we assume that everyone should have the same expected return every day, it means that we make an assumption that everyone will be Buddha. Okay? But in academic, we don't refer to Buddha, okay? But refer to someone that when they have some worry about the risk, the degree of their worry will be the same every day, okay? But in reality, our feeling change every time. For example, if we think that we can tolerate the score of 40s, let's say 40 out of 100, okay, let's say that you think that, hey, I will be okay if I get score equal to 40 out of 100 for this subject, okay? When you think like that, you think that, okay, you are okay. But when you actually get 40%, you feel that you want to die. Then you change your feeling. Therefore, it means that sometimes when stock price move, when you buy at 160, you think that I am okay. If stock price drop to 100, I am okay. Okay, I don't care because I have already made a forecast that no matter what happens, stock price will go back and go to 120. Something like that. Okay. But when the stock price is actually dropped to 140 or something, then you feel nervous. Okay. You are very worried, and then it means your fear toward risk will change. And when your fear toward the risk change, that might change the expected return. Okay, that might change the expected return. Even though the firm or business has the same risk, but sometimes our expected return may change, even though that security has the same risk level. And that change of expected return comes from our feeling, comes from our psychological factor. Okay? So you need to know about this as well. Therefore, in finance, we also have another kind of research that look at the behavioral finance. The behavior of human when they make decision in finance. Okay, because sometimes we don't make the same decision when the context of the situation change. Okay, even though in theory they should make the same decision. Okay, but anyway, you need to understand it that expected return needs to be positive all the time. On average, it needs to be constant because stock is the same stock. But sometimes expected return may change depending on investor feeling. Okay, and therefore, when we assume that the expected return should be constant for the same stock, but because that stock or the security may be riskier than the risk-free asset, therefore, when you buy that stock, you may need to ask for risk premium, right? Risk premium. We also used to talk last time. Okay, we add the risk premium, and then that risk premium can be market risk premium, liquidity risk premium, firm specific risk premium, or any kind of risk premium that you would like to add. Okay, but last week when we talk about cost of equity, we say that investor will receive RF and will also receive beta multiplied by RM minus RF, right? Which is the market risk premium. Okay, just only one premium that you would like to add. But sometimes in your research or in your stock valuation, maybe you would like to add the other premium if you think that that premium is warranted to be added. Okay, so expected return needs to be based on risk-free and with top-up. Okay, you need to have some top-up return. Otherwise, you are not going to hold that securities. Okay, and I think this slide, okay, is something that I just want you to know that when you calculate return, you can calculate return in two ways. The first one is the calculating the return based on the arithmetic return, which is the difference in price divided by price that you hold. Okay, so this way is the calculation of return that everyone are really familiar with. Okay, you use it every day. You use it every time when you buy some clothes or buy something that you have to discount something. Okay, you use this calculation. But anyway, in finance, sometimes we also calculate the return based on this equation. This equation is the return calculated from log, okay, ln, okay, ln, ln is the ln, okay, ln, okay, it's the ln of pt divided by pt minus 1, okay, that is also another kind of return that you can calculate. Okay.
เคยเรียนสมัยแคลคูลัสป่ะ
So the amount of return is different, basically because you use the different equation, okay? Because now you use log instead of that different arithmetic, okay? For example, what is going to be the return on this day? Can you come up with a number? What is the return, arithmetic return on this day? This is quite easy. You can right away answer my question. What is the percentage of return on this day? Huh? Please tell me, what is the return on this day? You hold the stock 100 and then you stock price increase to 100.5. What is the return? 0.5%. That is quite easy. Okay, you don't need to use any calculator. Okay. But what about this one? Geometric return. You do the calculator. You do the calculation. Okay, take it up and find. What is the geometric rate of return if stock price increase from 100 to 100.5? Yeah, can you tell me what is the number? Okay, so what you get is 0.498%. So geometric return is another kind of return, and the value is similar to arithmetic, but most of the time geometric rate of return we get a value smaller than arithmetic. Okay, the value of geometric return will always smaller than arithmetic. Okay. And what about, can you fill out? Can you fill out the table? Can you fill out the table? Okay, so please fill out the table. Please do the calculation and fill out the table and tell me what is going to be the value on this cell. So what is the number? Okay, what is the number here? Tell me. And I also would like to ask you that I told you in the first lecture that in this class we will not have much calculation in the class, but in the exam we will have a lot of calculation, and therefore if you don't practice, if you don't go home, if you don't read the textbook, if you don't try to do some maybe exercise in the textbook, then you may have some problems, okay? Because most of the time when I mark the exam, I feel that it's the first time you do the question. It's the first time that you do the calculation, okay? Therefore sometimes you make some stupid thing that you should not make. Something that, okay, you do the calculation correct, but you don't know how to change between percentage to decimal place to something like that. You know what? Even sometimes 2%, you even don't know that this is 2%. Okay, in the exam, it can happen. Okay, because you don't actually do the calculation to be familiar with all the number. Okay, and then now, what is the value in this cell? What is that? Minus 4.29. Okay, and what about this cell? 4.38%. And what about this cell? Minus 4.38. Okay. So the main reason that I asked you to do the calculation is the fact that the geometric rate of return will give you a symmetric movement. When stock move up and when stock move down, you will always get the same rate of return. Okay? When stock move up, you get 4.3%. When stock move down, you lose by 4.3%. But if you calculate with the arithmetic, you know that the up movement, the down movement is different. So it's just the same way as when we talk many times. Everyone knows that stock price move from 5 to 10 is the 100%. But stock price move from 10 to 5 is the lose of 50%, right? And therefore, the main reason that we have different number here is because we calculate it based on arithmetic rate of return. Okay? It's not the rate of return that give you some symmetric movement between up and down. So geometric rate of return is something that academic would like to use when they prove something. Okay, and to be honest, this one is easier to compute than this one. Okay, geometric rate of return is easier to compute than that one because geometric rate of return you just only have the function log and put in that number. N. It can be calculated. But here you just have to use one number minus the other number, and then you just need to use bracket, and then you just need to divide, and then you just need to use the other number. So on the left hand side is more difficult to calculate than the right one. Okay? And if you know further in the mathematics, you will also know that this case can be arranged to get that PT is equal to PT minus 1 multiplied by exponential of RT. Okay. But in this case, PT is equal to PT minus 1 multiplied by 1 plus RT. Okay. And actually calculating this term, the right hand side, this term, is easier than this term. It's easier, I have to convince you that it is easier. Okay, for example, if you have maybe, let's say, if you have EA multiplied by EB, what is that? Yeah, it's just A plus B, right? Which is quite easy. A plus B. But if you have 1 plus A multiplied by 1 plus B. This is very difficult. You need to have, okay, is equal to 1 plus A plus B plus AB. Oh, too long. Okay? So, having the geometric rate of return gives a lot of good property. You have symmetric rate of return. You have maybe some easy calculation when you would like to prove something. But there is also another thing. That you will also learn in slide 14. Okay, if you jump to slide 14. Slide 14 will give you the calculation in the case that you have the return that will be compounded on a different frequency. Okay? Let's say that if you have a 6% annual return, okay, if you multiply it with maybe your saving amount, then at the end of the year you get that one. Okay, but if a bank pay you with a half year compounding, therefore they will divide 6% into 6 months, right? 6% is a full year. Therefore, if you get the return 6 months, then your interest rate will be 3%, right? And then because in the first 6 months you already get 3%, in the next 6 months you get another 3%, right? Therefore, you have the square here, right? And if you have the daily compounding, you have to divide the average return, the annual return with 365 and compound with the 365 times, right? Okay, and then therefore if you have higher compounding, then your effective rate of return increase over time, right? The effective rate of return for this case is basically 609. This is 614. This is 617. This is 618, right? Percent. Okay? Therefore, here, if you have the 6% annual return, then you can calculate to find what is going to be the effective rate of return. Okay, so the effective rate of return, RE, is going to be equal to 1 plus R divided by M square M. Okay, if you just look at 1 year, okay, something like that. Okay, M is going to be the amount of time that you get payment in a year. Okay, something like that. Then you solve this equation, you get the RE. Anyway, okay, so RE here is this one. Okay, but the main reason that I want you to look at this slide first is because if you look at the case of daily compounding and exponential of 6%, you will see that your final wealth is nearly the same, right? Final wealth is nearly the same when you do the compounding for a very high frequency compared to the case that when you have continuous compounding E, right? Okay? Your final wealth is nearly the same. Therefore, actually, when we have E of R, is actually the case of the limit of 1 plus R over M. When you assume M go to infinity, okay? So actually the exponential term comes from the fact that you assume M go to infinity. M go to infinity means that you charge the interest rate on every second, okay? You divide the year into a very small time interval, okay? When M go to infinity. When m go to infinity, it means that you divide the time when you charge interest rate to be a very, very tiny time. Okay? So sometimes we call it continuous compounding. Okay, continuous compounding. Therefore, the main reason that academic would like to calculate geometric return, when they calculate geometric return, they need to make assumption that the interest rate is the continuous rate or continuous compounding. Okay, continuous rate is the interest rate that you charge every second. Okay. That is why we have geometric rate of return. Okay. Do you have any question? Okay, are you okay? Then the next part is that I also want you to understand the rate of return in more detail, which is the fact that we can separate the rate of return between nominal rate and real rate. Okay, now we create another kind of return. We call it real rate of return. Nominal return is the return that you know. When we talk about return, we always talk in nominal terms. Okay, it's the rate of return that everyone knows. Nominal rate of return. Real return is the rate of return that you make some adjustment. Okay, with the inflation rate. Okay, you have the inflation rate. Okay, so we come up with a new term, we call it real return. And real return is the return that you actually receive or you get higher spending power. Okay, because sometimes you get nominal return, let's say you get 3%, but if inflation is equal to 3%, then therefore your spending power is the same. Okay, you just can buy the same amount of product and service. Okay. Are you okay? I think you have learned about this before, right? In economic class, right? Okay, so, but anyway, real return is something that can change over time. It depends on demand and supply. Okay, it depends on demand and supply. Okay, if sometimes we have a lot of people that would like to borrow money, it say that that period is the demand for capital. Okay. We have a lot of people demand for capital. They would like to borrow money to buy something, to borrow money to invest in something. Okay, demand for capital. And when we have high demand for capital, the real return will go up or go down. Okay, the real return will go up. Okay, because there are a lot of demand to borrow money, therefore they they are okay to pay high interest rate, okay, in that period. And therefore, sometimes we also are in the period that maybe there are a lot of people that don't know what to do with the money, and then therefore they just put the money in the bank, they just put the money in the market, okay, they just only supply the capital. Okay, in that case, if a lot of people would like to save, it will cause the real return to go down, okay, because a lot of people would like to lend the money to other people, therefore they are okay to lend the money with a lower rate, okay. And in this case, therefore, when we have the inflation, sometimes if you would like to find the real return, okay, you need to make some adjustment from the inflation rate, okay, from the inflation rate. Therefore, for example, in this case, if your investment is in 1,000 today, and that investment increase to 1,100, therefore the nominal return is going to be 10%. But if you have to ask what is going to be your real return, therefore you just need to assume that, hey, wait a minute, if there is the inflation equal to 6%, therefore if your investment increased by 6%, your real return is 0, right? Okay. Therefore, in this case, in order to find real return, you need to assume that if your investment increased by 6%, then your wealth will be 1,060. But now what you get is that you get 100. Therefore, the real return is the return that you get from 1,060 to 1,100, right? That is the amount of real return, okay? And therefore, if this is your final wealth, and this is your beginning wealth, okay, your beginning wealth, if it increase according to inflation, therefore it means that it will increase with a 1.06. But then because your final wealth is 1,100, therefore your real return is going to be 1 plus R star, that you need to do the calculation from this equation, okay? Because your initial amount of investment is 1,000, and if as the inflation equal to 6%, therefore 1,000 increased by 6% will leave you the same wealth, the same spending power. But if at the end your money is at 1,100, therefore it means that you can increase your wealth from 1060 to 1,100. Therefore here is the real return, okay. Okay, and when you do this calculation, the real return is not equal to 4%, okay? The real return may be equal to, I think, 3 point something, okay? You just have to do the calculation on your own, okay? The real return will be that. But anyway, in this case, the real return is 3 point something, because we assume that when we do this calculation is based on the arithmetic rate of return, okay? Okay, this is the arithmetic rate of return. But if you assume that the rate of return is continuous, okay? If you assume that the rate of return is continuous, okay, so R will be different from that number. Okay, so it depends on how you assume about the percentage. Okay. But anyway, don't be worried too much about this. Okay? Because in the exam, I will only test you on the arithmetic level. Okay. But anyway, I also want you to know how to calculate the real return. Okay, I also want you to know how to calculate the real return. The real return is the actual return you receive that you can have higher spending power. Okay, because we just make some adjustment from the inflation. Okay, so when you invest in something, you need to invest, and then when you charge the rate of interest, you will charge the interest in such a way that it will cover inflation expectation. Let's say that if you are going to lend money to your friend, don't be too stupid and lend with the 1% rate of return. Because if you lend with the 1% rate of return a year, then you maybe have a lower wealth. Even though you get 1%, but that 1% is less than inflation rate, right? So in the real world, no one charges the interest rate lower than the inflation rate, right? Okay, because if you charge the interest rate that is lower than the interest rate, then it means that you give money to someone. Okay, you don't really charge it. Okay, so it means that when we talk about RF, okay, sorry. When we talk about RF here that we talk in the yield to maturity, when we calculate the bond valuation or something, okay, we calculate the yield to maturity. We know that the yield on government bond is maybe 2% or 3% or something, okay? That percentage is the percentage in nominal term. Okay? So when you go to the bank, and bank say that bank will give you 2% interest rate in the 2-year time deposit account, that is the nominal term. Okay? Nominal rate. Okay? But if you want to know what is going to be your real return, then you just need to do some adjustment with the inflation expectation. Sometimes we call it inflation premium, okay? So this equation is just the approximate equation, okay? That the RF maybe come from the RF star. RF star is the real return. Real risk-free rate, sometimes we call it real risk-free rate. Okay, real risk in the RF star plus some inflation premium, then we end up with RF. And RF is something that you observe in today's market. Okay, nominal return, real return, inflation premium. This is the inflation premium. Okay. Inflation premium is the rate of return that you want to receive in order to cover the risk of inflation. Okay. When you would like to invest in anything, you need to get more return, higher return over time. Okay. Therefore, if you go back to this slide, we say that the expected return of every security will come from risk-free rate and risk premium. We can also decompose this equation into RF star plus inflation premium plus other risk premium. Okay? We can also write like this. Okay? Real risk-free premium, real risk-free rate plus inflation premium plus risk premium. Okay, okay, are you okay? So I just would like you to know about that real return, inflation premium, and nominal term. Okay. So this is just the way that when we calculate the real return, okay, if you use the arithmetic return, then it's going to be calculated according to that equation. But if you use the geometric rate of return, then it's quite easy because you will just only have nominal term minus inflation rate. But if you have arithmetic rate of return, the real return will be the 1 plus R nominal divided by 1 plus inflation. Okay? But actually it just comes from the fact that I used to write in the previous slide. Okay? So I don't think I need to derive the equation, and I don't think you need to memorize this equation. Okay? And again, in the exam, you will not have any formula sheet, okay? And you do not need to memorize anything. Okay? You just use your own understanding to solve everything. Okay? And if you understand, you can solve anything. Okay? Okay? And I will not allow you to bring any sheet to the exam room. Okay? You just only come with the pen, pencil, calculator, student ID. Okay? In order to understand more about the real rate of return and inflation, then I have done some calculation for you. Okay? Let's say that if this is the FTSE 100 index, okay, Financial Times Stock Exchange 100 index, which is the index of the 100 stock in the London market, okay. Let's say that in the past 100 years, the FTSE 100 index is at this point. Nowadays, the FTSE 100 is around maybe 3,000 or 4,000, I don't know. But anyway, you may think that I get a lot of return, right? 30 times, okay, over 100 years. You may think that, oh, you get a lot of return. But if you include the inflation inside, don't forget that in the past 100 years, 1 pound may be able to buy many things, right? But nowadays, 1 pound may not be able to buy many things. Therefore, that index can be considered as this level of index in today's term. Okay, in today's term. Okay, so if you invest in the UK for 100 years, okay, your real return will be just 100% over 100 years. Okay, so or in other words, it means that you are richer. Okay, you can buy more food and product at the 100% amount compared to the one that you used to buy in 100 years ago. Okay, so sometimes when you look at nominal return, you think, hey, I got a very high return. But if that high return comes from the fact that we have a lot of inflation, then it's not that good. Okay, then your real return is not that high. But and then when we talk about inflation, do you think inflation is a good thing or bad thing? Huh? It's good or bad?
It's good until there's too much.
Okay, it's good, but it should not be too much, right? Okay, so inflation needs to be around 2 or 3% every year. Okay, so you should be happy about inflation. Okay, because without inflation, your salary will not be increased. Okay, that is the basic thing. Okay, so everyone want to have inflation. Therefore, we have the system of inflation just to make everyone feel that you get you are richer every year. But when you are richer by 4%, it means that your wealth is the same. Okay. Okay, we used to talk about risk-free rate. Risk-free rate is the rate of return from the risk-free asset. Okay, and when we talk about bond, we also say that government bond is the risk-free rate of return. But government bond is just a proxy of the risk-free rate of return. Okay. But anyway, I think let's talk about this slide after the break. Okay, let's talk about this slide after the break. Okay, so maybe just to give you some time to have a break and review what we have learned. Okay. Okay, so we are going to have group 1. Okay, are you okay to come? Okay.
Yeah.